Good evening, class. Good evening, Professor Jim. I decided to do my final project on the world's richest people. This is a review of the richest individuals and families in the world. My presentation will begin with my data set comprising first of the list of 151 richest people, followed by the frequency count by country. My first visual aid will be a histogram of the distribution of net worth, which will include the mean and standard deviation. I will then show you a frequency bar chart for the number of people from each country on this list, followed by a box plot of net worth, which will include the 5-number summary. My next slide will calculate the interquartile range and determine how many outliers are on this list. I will then show you a scatter plot of age versus net worth, which will include the correlation value and regression line, and I will close this presentation with a conclusion slide that has some noteworthy points. The source of my data set is Forbes' online list titled The World's Billionaires. It should be noted that some of the entries on this list are families instead of simply individuals. This list is updated at the end of each trading day, so it actually reflects real-time net worth. My list was taken on September 20th, 2018, so it is not perfectly up to date. For example, Jeff Bezos, at the time that I took the list, had a net worth of $112 billion, and in the short span of a week, his net worth is up to $164 billion. So he is doing very well for himself. I provided a link to the list on this slide, which you can copy and paste into your web browser if you would like to see the full list or a more up-to-date version of that list. The entire list is 2,066 entries. I chose the top 151 as number 151 had a net worth of $10 billion, and it seemed like a pretty nice round value to stop at. For the data set, I separated my list into increments that could be better read on these slides. The data set includes the ranking, the name, net worth, age, source, and country of citizenship. It should be noted that for families, I took the age of the oldest member. For example, number 55 on the list is the Hinduja family, and the oldest living member of that family is 82 years old. Also noteworthy is the asterisk in the title. When the number in the listed increment contains people who are tied, I put an asterisk there. For example, 2 people are tied for 34th place on this list. So my first page is 1 through 34. Second page is 36 through 68. Followed by 69 through 102, with 3 people tied at 69 and 3 people tied at 102. 105 through 138 with 2 people tied at 138. And finally 140 through 151 with 3 people tied at 140. I now counted the number of people among the top 151 from each country. There were 30 countries in total represented among this list, and I will go into greater detail about the frequency on my frequency bar chart slide. My first visual representation of data is the histogram of net worth. Looking at the histogram, the distribution of net worth is obviously heavily skewed to the right, with only 3 individuals with a net worth of greater than $75 billion. The mean value is 22.632, with a standard deviation of 16.973. Next we have my frequency bar chart by country. This is the number of people in the top 151 richest people list from each country. As you can see, the United States has by far the most number of people on this list. Two noteworthy countries are Germany, which have 1/3 as many people on this list as the United States, despite having only 1/4 the population. And the bigger noteworthy point is Hong Kong, who has 8 people on this list, despite having a population of only 7.34 million people, which is actually less than the population of New York City. For my box plot of net worth, it also shows the data is heavily skewed to the right with many high outliers. And we'll get to the exact number on the next slide. In the 5-number summary, you can see the data points. The minimum value is 10. The first quartile is 12.9. The median is 16.7. The third quartile is 23, and the maximum is 112. For the calculation of the interquartile range, as I mentioned on the previous slide, the first quartile value is 12.9, with the third quartile value being 23. This makes the calculation for the interquartile range to be equal to 10.1. Now, finding the outliers, we are looking for numbers that are less than Q1 minus 1.5 times the interquartile range, or greater than Q3 plus 1.5 times the interquartile range. This means that our low outliers will be any numbers less than negative 2.25, and high outliers will be any numbers greater than 38.15. This leaves us with 0 low outliers, as negative 2.25 is an impossible value for this list, with 22 high outliers. For the scatter plot of age versus net worth, it was a little surprising. Before truly looking at the list, I would have assumed that age and net worth were correlated pretty strongly, since as you go through life, you have more time to accumulate and grow your wealth. However, the correlation value is extremely low at 0.039, and as you look at the scatter plot, the values are distributed all over the place with no true correlation. I did include the line of regression just for reference. I did not include the equation of the line since the correlation value was so low. In conclusion, the net worth distribution of the 151 richest people in the world is skewed heavily to the right, mostly due to 22 outliers. The United States has the most number of people on this list, and Hong Kong has the most number of people relative to population. Age shows practically no correlation to net worth among the 151 richest people. Possible lurking values for that, or variables for that, could be inheritance or family wealth. If someone who is very young inherits an extreme amount of wealth from their family, their age would not correlate to the time that it took to accumulate that net worth. One last note to make is that this list is possibly not comprehensive because it won't include illegal assets such as money that belongs to drug kingpins or warlords or arms dealers, as well as quote-unquote secret assets. President Putin, for example, is famously rumored to secretly have tens of billions, if not hundreds of billions of dollars stashed away somewhere, despite claiming to be not very wealthy at all. All right, class, this concludes my presentation. Thank you very much and have a good night.